Hello, thank you for joining me. I realise that many of you couldn't be with us this afternoon to say goodbye to my wife Christine, or Chrissy as we all used to call her, and so John and I decided we would film this and perhaps it would help me feel connected to you, just for today. John's our son, he's filming it, he's not got a clue what he's doing with the camera, so it might be a bit juddery and you never know what's going to happen. And I wish you could see him because he's a spitting image of me, poor lad, except for the fact I tell him he hasn't got as much hair and he's got a bigger tummy. But he says that that's just a silly old dad joke. This afternoon, after the service, I told the vicar that I was going to do this. And she said that I should write down what I wanted to say to you. I should get it printed out and then I'd have it in front of me and it would make sure that I didn't leave anything out. And might help me focus, might even help me stop crying. But then if I did cry, it didn't matter, because it's that sort of day, isn't it? I hope you don't hear that the neighbour who's mowing his lawn at the moment, but the traffic goes past and he mows his lawn and life just goes on, doesn't it? Anyway, I don't often take much notice of what vicars say, especially lady vicars, but Christine really loved this one. She was kind and gentle to her, and so out of love for my wife and respect for the vicar, I've got it all written down. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to read it. Thanks. Chrissy and I were childhood sweethearts. We met in the first year at grammar school, and I think we fell in love immediately. We started dating the very first weekend after we met, which meant a lot of fumbling and kissing and cuddling on the back row of the local cinema on Saturday evening when I wasn't playing cricket or rugby. Things came to a head on a fifth form trip to Paris one December, just before Christmas. It was wonderful. We were alone in this romantic city. We'd had a glass or two of red wine and we were desperately in love with each other. And for the first time, we made love. Not just the first time for either of us, but the first time for both of us. To cut a long story short, I'm sorry. I can't do this. You knew Christy. She was the most generous, warm-hearted, funny human being I've ever met in my whole life, and just to reduce her to some smart, clever words on a piece of paper isn't fair. So I'm not going to do it. I don't care what the vicar says. I'll just have to try and remember it, and if I don't remember it, you won't know, will you, because you've not read it, and if I cry, then I cry. We'll just cope. To cut a long story short, Chrissy became pregnant that first time in Paris. We came home and our parents were overjoyed. They knew we were destined to be together. We got married in the following February when we both became 16, and with the school's help and support, we took our O-levels in the July, and after taking her final O-level, Chrissy gave birth to our wonderful son, John. We wanted to go to university. We both wanted to become teachers. Chrissy wanted to be a science teacher. She was mad keen on physics all the time, and I thought I was going to be the greatest writer of English since Charles Dickens, and so I wanted to study English literature. And we wanted to go to Exeter, so we needed to get good grades. Our parents supported us, and the school supported us. We took little John into lessons sometime. I think we were the only parents in the sixth form that year. And we got our grades. Chrissy, of course, got A stars all the way through. And I didn't do too badly. I did well enough to get into Exeter, so that's not bad, is it? And off we went swinging little John between us. From the very beginning, Chrissy was a star. I think she was probably the best student, I should say, shouldn't I, that the department had ever had. She was just wonderful, keen, intelligent, hard-working, and I realised that I wasn't going to be a great writer. In fact, realised I probably wouldn't even be a writer at all. And so I decided to do what lots of people do when they can't do something. I decided to teach it. And so I had to stay on and get my qualifications. And we did. Chrissy got a first, with distinction. It was no surprise to anyone. And I got a 2-1, which I was over the moon about. The university persuaded Chrissy to stay on and do her masters, and so John and I stayed in Exeter with her to support her. She would go in almost every day, and I would spend my time taking care of John and learning all of Shakespeare's sonnets forwards and backwards and most of the monologues. I became a real Shakespeare geek, I'm afraid. And of course Chrissy got her masters. Fabulous, fabulous distinction masters. And off we left. Off into the big bad world of teaching. By this time, John was 7 years old and he'd already done 4 years at university. We were very fortunate. We both got posts at the grammar school that we were pupils at, although it wasn't a grammar school anymore. It was now a comprehensive school. All the staff loved her. She was inspirational. The pupils loved her, the parents loved her, the governors loved her. Everybody thought she was fantastic. I muddled along and I took some coaching in cricket and rugby and enjoyed that. And John eventually went to the same school. Chrissy did her PhD in her spare time. And then a few years later, it was as Dr. Christine, she became the first principal, the first female principal of the college. Even Ofsted fell in love with Chrissy. The reports were always glowing, excellent in everything. It didn't matter whether it was sport, it didn't matter whether it was the humanities or science or pastoral care. They even singled Chrissy out for special praise, saying that the school were lucky to have such a natural-born leader. Of course, I used to tell her that she wasn't a leader at all, she was just an organiser. At least, she used to organise me. So it'll come as no surprise to any of you who knew her that once we received the diagnosis of Alzheimer's and we'd sobered up, Chrissy set about organising the rest of our life together. We knew that we wouldn't have as much time that we planned. She started by organising today. She chose the church and the vicar. She chose the readings and the hymns. She even chose her own coffin. And this stupid jacket and collar and tie that she forced me to wear. And what you can't see, what she used to call my lucky boxer shorts. But I knew she wasn't organising me. No, she was just doing what she always did for all of us, helping us, trying to make it all just that little bit easy. She knew today would be a horrible day for me, and so she was just trying to take some of the burden away from me. She said we had to have a new bucket list. We'd written one a couple of years before. We were hoping to take early retirement and go around the world, but now that would all change, wouldn't it? I can see it now, even clearer than the piece of paper with the speech on. It was headed, little A5 piece of paper, headed New Bucket List in response to Alzheimer, the well-known Egyptian psychologist trying to steal my mind. 1. Visit John and his wonderful family in Australia. 2. See the polar bears
on the way to visiting John and his wonderful family in Australia. 3. See St. Petersburg in the snow on the way back from visiting John and his wonderful family in Australia. 4. Visit John and his wonderful family in Australia. 5. If we've got enough time left, kill Tony Blair. and I know the beast is still at large. But we did all the rest. Not St. Petersburg. That was my bucket list, and I can do that anytime, can't I? And I think we visited John so often that he and the kids and his wife must have thought we'd emigrated and moved in next door. We went over and over again until Chrissy couldn't fly anymore. You see, there's no knowing how fast Alzheimer's will affect somebody. Sometimes it's quite quick and rapid and they deteriorate over a very short period of time. Other times it's very slow and it takes a long time, and other times it's a combination of both. The only thing you can be certain of is that you are going to die. At first, of course, it wasn't obvious. And she kept going in and doing little bits of work in the school. She was still able to talk to the pupils, even if she didn't always remember their names, and she could still do a little bit of admin and talk to other members of the staff, and it kept the grey cells going, kept her mind active. She was still contacting, she was still out there in the world. But eventually it became obvious, and she had to leave. And so I did as well. We decided that when the time came for her to leave, I would, so that we could spend all of the time that we had together. I tell you, you might think this is really sad. We've lived in this house for the last 35 years. And we used to do something every single Friday night that we were at home. Really silly. We used to, after school had finished, we used to get in the car, we'd go to the local Tesco's and we'd do our weekend shopping. And we used to play 2 silly games. The first one was, while we were going round with our trolley, we each used to try and slip things into the basket without the other one noticing. They were little surprise gifts for the weekend to each other. The second game was trying to slip things into other people's baskets and trolleys as they were going round. Chrissy used to like and spot a vegetarian, and then she'd slip sausage rolls and pork pies and cold meat into their baskets, and we'd giggle like naughty school kids when they got to the checkout and complained that their vegetables were contaminated. I can remember the last time we did this together. She still played the game, although it was obvious to everybody what she was doing, but they all just humoured her. And we got to the checkout, and she said, "Michael, I'll pay for this. You go get the car." And she took our TV remote control out of her pocket. She passed it to the young girl on the checkout, and she said, "Here you go. Take it out of that." And then she just turned, grabbed hold of the basket and walked out. And they were wonderful. They didn't call us back, didn't stop us, they didn't follow us into the car park, they just let us go. Of course, the next day I went straight back to pay for what we got, and the manager came out and he said, no, it's all right, Michael, I'm a pupil of yours, I was a pupil of yours. We know what's going on. Tesco's can afford that trolley of food. And you're probably going to need this to change channel on your television. So you see, there were lots of laughs, and you have to find them. And she loved laughing. I only had to smile at her and she would burst out into silly schoolgirl giggles. She just loved hearing people laugh. I can remember at the beginning, when she wasn't so bad, I was able to leave her on her own for a couple of hours in the evening sometimes. And I got a part-time job at the local college, teaching English literature in the evening to mature students. I came back one evening and I heard Chrissy rattling about in the kitchen. And I thought, oh God, what sort of mess is she making now? And I went in and I went to open the door and she said, no, Michael, don't come in. I'm cooking your supper. I wish you could have seen it. There was a pile of knives and forks on the kitchen table and a plate with 2 burnt sausages and a banana. So I picked up a knife and a fork and I sat down and I started to eat, and she said, no, Michael, no, don't eat yet. I've done you some gravy. I know you like gravy with your sausages. And she got a saucepan and she poured this horrible, bubbly, slimy, steaming grey goop all over the sausages. I learned what had happened later in the evening when we were having hot chocolate before she went to bed. We always used to talk about what we'd done during the day, even though we'd done it together. Again, it was just keeping the grey cells going. And she told me that when I went off to teach, she decided that she'd cook my supper, sausages with gravy. But first she'd clean out the kitchen. And she went into the pantry and she was cleaning things out and she was recognising things and putting things back in their place, and then she came across something that she didn't recognise, and she read what it was and thought, I'm going to do this, I'll do this, and then it'll show Michael that I can still do things. It was kettle descaler. And she read the instructions and she did exactly what it said on the instructions. She poured it all into the kettle, she topped it up with water and put it on to boil. And then, of course, she forgot about it. Then the alarm went off. The alarm that I always used to set to warn her that I'd be home in 5 minutes. And she started to panic. She had to make some gravy and she went back into the cupboard and she got the red box that she knew was gravy granules, and she did exactly what it said on the box. She heaped 3 heaped tablespoons into the saucepan and topped it up with the boiling water out of the kettle. Stirred it up. I said it looked delicious. I said I'd save it later. After she'd gone to bed, I'd mop it up with some crispy bread that I got, and so I sat down and I scraped it off my sausages, and she sat opposite me smiling proudly. And I ate my 3 sausages. And my banana. It was the most delicious meal I've ever had. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have listened to the vicar, shouldn't I? I mean, Chrissy wouldn't have wanted this. She'd have wanted us to be happy. She'd have wanted me to tell jokes about funny times and how we used to laugh and laugh and laugh and not make you sad and not make me sad. I mean, I can remember once toasting some tea cakes and making a pot of tea and saying to her, come on, let's go and have tea in the conservatory, Chrissy. And she said, oh, have we got a conservatory? Which way is it? And you see, I could cope with all that. I could cope with the forgetfulness, the muddle-headedness, having to dress her, having to bathe her. But then, when the swearing started, and the violence, and the incontinence, the worst day in my whole life, worse even than the day Chrissy died, it was the day I drove home from the care home, leaving her behind. And I looked in my rear view mirror and I saw her standing at the window, waving to me. And they were wonderful with her. Everyone was wonderful with her, with me. Kept telling me it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing for Chrissy and the right thing for me, and I know it was the right thing to do, but it doesn't matter what anyone says. Nothing will stop me feeling guilty that I deserted my wife. I'm going to stop in a minute. I didn't intend it to be like this. Thank you for your phone calls and your texts, the cards, the flowers. I couldn't have coped without you and without John. He'll switch it off in a minute. He's asked me to ask you something. Can you please all get in touch with him and send him your email addresses? It appears that in a couple of years' time I have a really, really important birthday, and John wants to give me a surprise birthday party, and he'd like to invite you all, and I'd love you all to come. I'd love you all to be there. It's a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and it will help, won't it? I won't be over it, but I'll be a lot better, and I'll drink and I'll dance, and we'll laugh and we'll remember. I'm going to go and sit in a room with my friend Johnny Walker for a while. Say goodbye to Chrissy on my own. Don't be strangers. It only takes a little message. Keep safe.
Hi Chrissy. I'm back. Oh! I meant to talk to you last night, but John wanted to chat and we had a couple of glasses and it just got too late and I wasn't in any fit state to do it. So it's now. I've taken John off to the airport. He'll catch the plane this afternoon and I put the outfit on so we can have our last little chat together. I hope you're out there. I mean, you believed it, didn't you? You believed all that mumbo-jumbo that the vicar was spouting, all that idea about life after death and the resurrection, and she's not died, she's just gone into another room. Well, like bloody hell you've gone into another room. I mean, if you'd gone into another room, we'd both be sitting there, we'd both be drinking whiskey, we'd both be laughing at that stupid hat that your sister wore, and how fat her kids have got. But you're not in another room. It's just me. But then it's been me for quite a while, hasn't it? I found your letter yesterday. John and I were in the car on the way to the church and you knew I'd find it. That's why you put it in the inside pocket of this stupid jacket. You knew I wouldn't wear it before the day. Started to read it, but I had to stop. I didn't want John seeing me cry so much. And anyway, I thought we could do it now.
Now, while I'm here and I've got a bit of Scotch courage, we can do it together. Cheers, my darling. My dearest, darling husband, it's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? All those things we were going to do together, all the places we were going to go together. I'm sure we'll still do some of them, but let's not beat around the bush. This thing's going to kill me, and we have no idea how long it'll take. So I thought that while I was still reasonably compos mentis, I'd write you this little letter. It's a little love letter. A little thank you letter. A little take care of yourself letter, and sadly, a goodbye letter. We've had more than 40 wonderful years together, the three of us, and I wouldn't change any of it, except this last bit. And we'll get through this together, I promise, my darling. It's a strange and wonderful thought, isn't it? We've had John almost as long as we've had each other. And you have been the best husband, lover, father, and friend in the whole world. It's been a fabulous adventure having you and John in my heart for so long. An adventure I don't want to forget, but I know that I will. I'm not going to list all the happy and loving moments that I cherish. I know you won't need reminding of them, and I know how much you used to hate all those tedious round robin letters people send at Christmas time, thinking you're actually interested in what they do for the rest of the year. And so I'll keep it short. See if you recognise it. The words of your beloved Mr. Shakespeare. Doubt thou the stars are fire. Doubt that the sun doth move. Doubt truth to be a liar. But never doubt I love you. I could have wished for no better companion in this world but you. I hope you've coped all right, and I hope you weren't too rude to anyone at the funeral, especially the vicar. I know how you feel about the church. It's the one big thing we agreed to disagree on, isn't it? Just get the day over and try to live a little again. Perhaps you can start by having a large whiskey or two when you're on your own. And of course, I've written a little list of things I don't want you to forget. 1. Don't forget to eat 5 portions of vegetables and fruit every day. 2. Don't forget to exercise, at least walk briskly every day. Don't forget to be nice to people, and they'll be nice to you. 4. Don't forget that the colour green doesn't suit you. 5. Don't forget Tony Blair. 6. And before I forget, I love you. I love you. For always. I've written another letter for John. You'll find it in my jewellery box, with 2 gold lockets for little Lizzie and Chrissy. give them all a hug and a kiss. Big hugs and love and kisses forever and ever. Goodbye, my darling. Chrissy. I miss you, Chrissy. I mean, not just now that you're dead. I've missed you for so long. Almost years. I mean, that shambling wreck of a creature that you became wasn't the Chrissy that I fell in love with. The Chrissy that I danced with, that John and I played games with. The Chrissy that I made love to. No, you slipped away from me. A bit at a time, until there were no bits left. I've no idea where you went. You just went. They told me that the worst day would be when you finally didn't recognise me, but they were wrong, Chrissy. My heart broke on the day I realised that I didn't really recognise you anymore. Oh, you were still looking physically pretty well the same, still so beautiful with your beautiful long hair. But the light had gone. There was no joy, no sparkle. And I combed your hair, and I stroked your cheek, I held your hand. I kissed you over and over again, and I kept telling you I loved you, because I do, I always will. And I know it was you that was dying, I know it was you that was in pain, but just sometimes I needed you to squeeze my hand back, needed you to tell me that you knew that I loved you, and that you loved me. I started to sing our song. Remember that stupid French song that we heard in Paris all those years ago? La mer, la 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 la. I never learned the rest of the words. Don't think anybody knows them. Then you heard me starting to sing it, and you stood up. You started to sway, you started to dance. You smiled, and I thought, she's still there. My Chrissy, she's not gone away altogether, she's still there. And I stood up, and I put my arms around you, and I kissed you to dance with you, and you just pushed me away. You hadn't remembered it at all. It was just some horrible knee-jerk reflex reaction. I love you, my darling. I love you more than anything in the whole world, and I always will. And I know that you didn't mean to leave me. I know you didn't want to leave me, but that's what's happened. And I know you loved me. You loved me as much as I love you, but what I could never get over, and I still can't understand, is you loved your God. And you kept, as long as you were sort of understandable, you kept loving your God. And he didn't give a toss about you, did he? Or me, or John, or the kids. No loving God would do that to anybody. I mean, you probably don't want to hear this, but I'm going to have to say it. I can't help it, but I really hope I really hope that your God, the Father Almighty in heaven, God the Son and God the Holy Ghost, all the angels and saints in heaven rot in hell for bloody eternity for what they've done to us. I'm sorry. Sweet dreams. I'm going to bed with my new best friend.
Good morning, Michael. How are you today?
Morning, yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
I'm Dr. Harris, but I'd like you to call me Helen.
Hi.
And I'm going to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. Like a quiz?
Yes, that's right, a sort of quiz.
Oh, great. I like quizzes.
It's an assessment and it'll help me get your treatment right, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. Just don't make it too difficult for me.
No, I won't, no. So, do you know exactly where you are, Michael?
Yes, I'm here with you in your place.
What day is it today, Michael?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know the date?
No, they all blur into one when you're retired. It doesn't matter.
Do you know the month?
No.
No? Okay, so what season is it then, Michael? Is it spring, summer, autumn, winter?
Well, those yellow flowers are out, so I suppose it must be spring. Not that it really matters, does it?
No, but it is all going to help, I assure you.
Right.
So, what about the year, Michael? What year is it?
A bad year.
Do you remember what year you were born?
Yep, 1952.
And do you know how old you are?
Very old.
When's your birthday?
Every year.
Where do you live?
Just round the corner. Got a semi-detached just round the...
What's the address, Michael?
I've got it written down here. I'll read it out to you. I live at number 22 Wolverhampton Road.
Try to remember it without looking, if you can.
But why? That's the idea of having it written down, so that I don't need to remember things that are written down.
Okay then, well, I'm now going to mention 3 things, Michael, and I'd want you to repeat them back to me. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cow, potato, spanner.
Cow.
And the other 2?
Cow.
Okay, Michael, you're doing really well. Not much longer now. Now, can you tell me the months in reverse order? Backwards. So it would begin like this. We go from December to November to October.
It's a stupid question. They don't go backwards, and it doesn't matter. You ask my students, I was never very good at the months and things like that.
Please try, Michael.
Oh, okay, I'll try. July, February and December.
Can you remember the 3 things I told you before?
No.
Okay, Michael, there's a piece of paper on the table next to you. Could you fold it in half for me, please, and put it on the floor? Last one now, and then we're finished. If you use the pen next to the paper, I'd like you to draw a square for me.
Square.
A square. Oh, can you hold it up so that I can see it, please?
Hi Chrissy, I'm home. A bit later than I said I was going to be, but I stopped at the bar down the road. You know, the pub? Red Lion Lake it's called, and I had a couple of whiskies. I know it's early in the day, but I needed to have a drink. I need to have a big drink, because it's been a shit day. I mean, are you still up there? I mean, it's just this me, Nicky, no mates, talking to a dirty, great, big, blank wall, or are you really there? And I mean, what happens when I'm not here? Did you just hang around waiting for me, or
Or perhaps you follow me, do you, to take care of me? Or do you and all the other little spirits get together and go to a special Costa in the sky? Listen to me. Oh, no, because I've got nobody else to talk to, have I? Cheers. Well, I hope you're there, because I have got things to tell you, and I'm going to need a couple of drinks before I can. I'm going to have this one, then I'm going to have another one, and another one, until I am totally pissed. Till I don't care. How's your God doing? Still messing about with people's lives, is he? Well, he's messing about with mine, darling. Yeah. He won't let me go, will he? He gave me 5 years to watch you die. 5 years to watch you slip away, a bit at a time, until there were no bits left to slip away, and all I could do was just stand by your side and hold your hand and tell you I loved you, because there was no cure, no treatment, no tablets, no medicine, no hope. And that was the worst thing. There's no hope. And now, there's no hope for me either. Yeah. You got it. I've got dementia, they say. Oh, they're not sure if it's Alzheimer's yet. I still have to do 1 or 2 more tests, you know, those stupid memory questions. And even if it is Alzheimer's in its early stages, it's mild, moderate. There's nothing bloody mild and moderate about Alzheimer's, is there? We know there's not, you and me. We know what happens. We know what happens to you eventually. And I'm terrified. Really, really terrified. And I'm angry. I don't think it's fair. I had to watch you die, shrivel into a wreck, and now I know the same is going to happen to me, and I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget John. I don't want to forget the kids. I don't want to forget you. I read your letter again last night. I like reading it. It makes me feel that we're still some way connected, and I can hear your voice. And then I try and picture you. It's only been 18 months. And all I can see, all I can remember is you just standing at that window and waving at me. And I don't even want to forget that. I've done a new bucket list. Well, of course I have. You told me to, and I always do what I'm told, don't I? I didn't really write another one. I just used the one that you did and scratched a few things out and added a few. I've added just 2 things. I'm still going to see John and the kids and the family as often as I possibly can. I'm going in a couple of weeks. I haven't told him about the dementia. You're the first. If he knew, he'd be on the next plane over and organising me, just like you would, my darling. But you see, I'm lonely. I'm lost. I need to change things. I've added 2 things to our bucket list. But don't worry, Tony Blair's still there. St. Petersburg's still there. I don't need to go and see the polar bears. That was never my bucket list anyway. That was yours, wasn't it? And here's the first one that I've added, and I don't think you'll mind. You'll probably laugh at me. You see, once I've drunk this glass of Johnny Walker, and that glass, and that glass, and that glass, and the bottle is empty, I'm never going to drink cheap whiskey again. For as long as I've got left, I'm going to drink the very best. That's the first thing. Now here's the second thing. You won't like this. I've decided that I'm going to spend some money and have a night of passion with a lady of the night. Yeah, sex. I know it's wrong. I know we always agreed. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's wrong. It's demeaning for the woman. It's demeaning for the man. It's demeaning for the whole of society that it happens. But, Chrissy, if I'm to be really honest with you, I've always wondered what it would be like having sex with somebody who's paid to do it properly. Who knows? I might suddenly find out we've been doing it wrong all these years. I hope not. Probably won't go through with it, will I? You know what I'm like. All mouth and no trousers. You see, I'm growing cold, Chrissy. The house is cold. The rooms are cold. My life is cold. And I don't want it to be like that. I don't want it to stay like that for whatever time I've got left. Do you remember the lady down the road, young Linda, a single parent, the one who always wore high heels and short skirts that you said I ogled at? Well, she's signed on to one of the classes that I teach at the college. I suppose I'll have to give those up soon, won't I? And she's a really bright spark. Got a great sense of humour. An absolutely wicked laugh and giggle, just like yours. She reminds me a lot of you when you were younger. And we get on quite well. We've been out for a drink a few times after classes with the rest of the class, and sometimes just the two of us. And of course, we live near to each other, so we walk back, and we've been to a concert. And she took me to a rock concert. Anyway, tomorrow night, Linda's coming round for dinner. Yeah, I'm cooking, me. And I've got a couple of bottles of champagne. And I'm really hoping that after the dinner, and after we've drank our champagne, Linda and I are going to shag each other for as long as we possibly can. Yeah, it's not to do with love. It won't affect you and me. But it's just... I mean, let's be honest. You left me. I know you didn't want to, but you left me on my own, and I can't cope on my own. If you were still here, I wouldn't be talking about prostitutes or Linda, would I? I'd be holding you in the morning, but you're not here. You left me, you went, and you left me on my own, and it wasn't supposed to be like that. I mean, how do you think I'm going to cope? All on my own. I've no idea how long it's going to take. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, like you, 5 years. And I can't do it all on my own. I can't remember the last time I actually held someone close. And I can't remember the last time anyone hugged me. I'm sorry. Why am I shouting at you? Why am I shouting at a brick wall? It's because I've got nothing else to shout at. God, I miss you. You don't deserve this. You've done nothing for me to shout at you for. I'll put it down to the whiskey. I shouldn't drink at lunchtime, should I? Next time we talk, I won't have... I'll have finished this bottle anyway, but... I want to live for as long as I've got left. And I'm sorry you're not here to do it with me. God bless, my love. I don't want you watching me get pissed, so you might as well take the rest of the night off. Oh, and Chrissy, I hope it's really cloudy tomorrow night.
Good morning, Michael.
What a lovely surprise.
How are you today? I'm Dr. Harris, but I'd like you to call me Helen.
I wasn't expecting to see you today. It's my birthday.
I know. Happy birthday. How old are you today?
I've got a present and a cake.
That's nice. It's a nice place here, isn't it, John? Do you like it here? You've got a lovely room.
It's a phone to call my boy, John.
That's good. How is he?
What are you doing here?
I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Like a quiz?
Yes, that's right, a sort of quiz.
Ah,
It's an assessment and it'll help me get your treatment right, if that's okay with you, Michael.
I like quizzes. It's been ages since I've seen you. I've got to tell you something. But it's a secret. You mustn't tell anyone, especially here. Chris has left me. Yeah, I know. She just packed her bag just the other day and off she went. I've no idea where she's gone. She's gone off with, you know, with him, but well, I can tell you she's not getting a penny from me. No, not one penny she's not. What are you doing here?
Can I ask you a few questions now, Michael?
Yes, a quiz. Okay,
Do you know exactly where you are?
here.
What day is it today, Michael?
I don't know.
Do you know the date?
It's not important.
Do you know the month?
Well, go and ask the girls downstairs. They'll tell you what it is.
Do you know what season it is, Michael? Is it spring, summer, autumn, winter?
Why are you asking me all these questions?
What year is it, Michael?
Do
Do you remember when you were born?
52.
Do you know how old you are? And when's your birthday?
Soon.
Where do you live?
Here.
Do you know the address, Michael?
I've got it on a card, in case anybody asks.
Can you try to remember it?
Just take the bloody card!
Okay. Well, I'm going to mention 3 things, Michael, and I want you to repeat them back to me if that's okay.
Yes.
Cow.
Cow.
Potato.
Cow.
Spanner.
Cow.
Okay, Michael, you're doing really well, not much longer. Could you tell me the months in reverse order? Backwards, it would begin, so like December, November, October.
Cow.
Please try and remember. What about the 3 things I told you before?
No.
Okay, here's a piece of paper, Michael. Could you fold it in half for me and then put it on the floor? Last one now and then we're finished. If you use this pen, could you draw a square for me, please?
A square.
And can you hold it up so that I can see it, please? That's it, Michael. Just show it, turn it round and show it to me. Oh, thank you, Michael.
Just remind me who you are.
Helen. My name's Helen.
Helen. Do I know you?
Yes, I'm your doctor.
I don't need a doctor. What are you doing here? What's your name?
Helen.
Helen. Helen. How are you, Helen?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Go and ask them. I don't want to be here.
Okay then, Michael, but How are you?
It's none of your bloody business. I mean, I don't know what you're doing. I never see you. You never come and see me, not unless you want some money, don't you? That's what you want. You're not getting any of my money, you cow. No, none of it. Not one bloody penny. You can just bugger off. I don't never want to see you again. You never come. No. Bugger, bloody bugger off. Michael? It's Michael. Dad. Who's that? Oh, John. John, listen. I have to go and get it. No. They haven't got one here. It's useless. They're useless here. I want to go home. No, it's not. I have to go and it's round. Round with a it's shiny and it's got holes. John? How are you, John? Oh, good. And what about you know, the woman? Yes, Sue. Yes. You put it under the water and then you shake it. I can see they're here. They're here again. The bloody bitch! I want my towels back. All of them. You can't. My son John. He'll come and get you. He'll put you in a bag and throw you in the canal and he'll bloody drown you. I'll tell him. He'll be here any minute. Any minute. Shh, John. They'll hear us. They'll hear us. No, they don't. None of them like me. No, I hate them. How are you, John? Oh, good. And what about you know, what? A calendar? What's a bloody calendar? I never asked you about a bloody calendar. No, never ever. Why would I ask you about it? I can see you, bitch!
Good afternoon, Michael. How are you today?
Quiz.
I was just seeing someone else here and I thought I'd drop in and say hello.
Quiz.
You probably don't remember me, but I'm Dr. Harris and I'd like you to call me Helen.
Quiz!
Oh, quiz, yes, like we did last time, of course. We can, if that's what you'd like to do. Do you know where you are, Michael? Oh dear, Michael.
Good morning, this is your wake-up call. This is your wake-up call.
G'day folks.
Many of you won't have met me, but I can guess you'll know who I am. I'm the son, John. I'm the spitting image of the old man, aren't I? Except I used to tell him he'd got less hair and a bigger tummy than me, but he said that was just a stupid old joke. Now, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable because I'm not used to doing things like this. And I remember that 4 years ago, Dad didn't want everybody travelling all over the place and coming miles just for a few sandwiches and a glass of wine at my mum's funeral. And so he did a video and let you all see it. Well, now I know things are a bit different and you're not allowed to travel very far. So yesterday at the funeral there were very few of us there. Just one or two close relatives, that's all that was allowed. And I thought, just like Dad did, I'd do a little video for him and then you can all see it, can't you? I think he'd have enjoyed that. My wife's pressing the buttons like I did before, only she's probably not quite as good as I am. But, you know, she's the best I've got, and we'll go with that, shan't we? You're probably wondering why I'm dressed like this. Well, it's because my dad had a great sense of humour, a wicked sense of humour even. And when I left for Australia all those years ago, he bought me what he called my Aussie outfit. He reckoned that the Australians hadn't got much of a sense of humour. They can't take the piss out of themselves, he said. So, whenever I wanted to take the piss out of them, he said, just put on the Australian outfit and they'll be really pissed off. And you know something? He was absolutely right. However, I want to prove that I've not just inherited my dad's good looks, but his sense of humour as well. And so I've been on Amazon. And I've managed to order half a dozen of these and half a dozen of the shirts. And I don't know if you can you see the shorts? Yeah, don't take any notice of the legs, but you know, and half a dozen of the shorts and the diamond socks. And when I eventually send you the photographs, you'll see my wife's wearing an outfit, our two daughters are wearing an outfit, and their husbands are wearing outfits. It's probably the only fancy dress funeral that I've ever known. But if you don't mind, I'm going to take the hat off. I mean, the corks are bloody irritating for a start. And I'm going to take the shades off because I want you to see that I've got my dad's baby blue eyes as well. Now, I knew that if I was going to do this video, I'd have to have some words to say. Some things about my dad, some reminiscences and things like that. And I'm not like my dad. He enjoyed doing this sort of thing and I hate it. I'm as nervous as hell. And I was sitting here in his apartment down at the home, which clearing the things out, and this morning I was trying to write some words down. Words that you might find interesting or funny, and I was having a real trouble. And then suddenly there was a knock on the door. It was, you know, fate, or whatever you call it. I opened the door, and there stood an old neighbour of my dad's and mum's, Linda. And I said, oh, come inside, Linda. She said, well, I've written you a letter, John. I'll just leave it with you. I said, no, come inside. And we'll sit down, we'll have a cup of tea together, and we'll read the letter together. And this is what we did. And you know, the letter was great. I welled up at one stage, and another stage I spat my tea out of my mouth. But I said to Linda, I said, look, do you mind if I read this letter out in the video for Dad's friends? I think it sums him up in more ways than I could possibly do it. And she said, no, you go ahead, John, you read the letter, I don't mind. And so, if you don't mind, I'm going to read Linda's letter. See, I've got better eyesight than my dad. I don't need those silly specs he used to wear. Dear John, first, can I tell you how very sad and upset I am for your loss? Your mother and father were wonderful people, and I feel blessed to have had them both as friends and neighbours. I do, however, have a confession to make, but I hope you'll not be too shocked or angry or upset by it. I loved your father deeply, and I'll never forget him. A while after your mum died, Michael and I became lovers. But I was never a replacement for Chrissy. No one ever could be. But Michael and I both had needs, and we cared for each other. After he sold his house and moved into this place in St Luke's, Michael took me on a wonderful holiday to St Petersburg. It was so beautiful, walking hand in hand in the snow and cuddling up and keeping warm without worrying that anybody might see us. I was so happy. But after our last dinner there, when we'd finished the food and moved on to the whiskies, Michael told me that we should stop seeing each other. When we returned home, he said he didn't want me to feel under any obligation as his condition deteriorated. I just smiled and asked him if perhaps we could meet up now and again for a shag. He nearly spat his whiskey out of his mouth at that. But he said that he had given it some thought. But he thought it wouldn't be fair on me. And so he'd already made arrangements with a local escort agency to send a woman round to the home 2 or 3 times a month. I asked him how much they were going to charge him. £250 a month, he said. And so I said I'd do it for 100. That's where I nearly spat my tea out of my mouth. And we both giggled like naughty kids and finally settled on £150 a month. And so every month from then on, £150 would land in my bank account. And I would visit your dad 2 or 3 times a week, not the 2 or 3 times a month of the escort agency. He even gave me a Christmas bonus in the first December. And each time I'd visit him, I'd take a small bottle of malt whiskey and I'd put that silly French song on my mobile and we'd make each other happy. But I didn't do it for the money, John. I did it because I loved Michael. I always will. And besides, I don't need the money. I've got plenty. So please, find enclosed the cheque for £4,650. I think you should either spend it unwisely on you and your wife or wisely on a charity. Towards the end, Michael used to get very confused. He kept asking me if I loved him every couple of minutes and called me Chrissy. Of course I told him that I loved him because I do. But I hope you don't mind. I never told him that I wasn't Chrissy. There doesn't seem much point, really. I hope you're not too shocked, John, and I hope you don't think we did anything wrong. Michael never stopped loving Chrissy or you or your family. He was so proud of you all, and I was proud of him. I hope you are. Be happy, John. Love, Linda. P.S. Please excuse the paper and the writing. Well, you old bugger. You know, there was only 16 years between me and my dad. And as I grew up, he was my dad, he was my best friend, and he was my big brother. I thought I was the luckiest kid in the world. And I've always been proud of him. Everything he did I was proud of. Never thought I could be prouder, not until I read this. And now I'm even prouder than ever. If Mum was right, Dad, then you and you're up there somewhere, sitting in a bar, drinking whiskey and laughing at me because I'm so uncomfortable and nervous. But if Mum was wrong, I don't care. It's how I'm going to think of you both. Holding hands, with a glass of scotch, and making me laugh. I'm going to miss you, Dad. Best friends. Take care. Safe travels. Give Mum a hug from all of us. We'll never forget you. Well, that's it then, folks. I've got some clearing up to do, so just stay safe, won't you, in these difficult times. Good day.